Thought I'd shoot a little video about this Langmuir Crossfire Pro plasma table I bought. It's been an adventure. I bought a used one with some miles on it because it was in my budget. It's a wonderful tool, and I'll go a little bit over my experience with it so far. I've had it for a couple of months. For a while, it was running pretty and it can cut some pretty cool stuff, and I've been using it a lot for windmill parts here and other things, and I'm loving learning the CAD and learning about plasma cutters and all the quirks, and I tend to learn things the hard way. Anyhow, when I got this table, it ran good, and then every now and then it would bind up. The table would bind up, and I figured, well, it's an old table. I didn't build it. It's probably out of square or something. So I checked the rails for parallel. It would bind up on the y-axis. I checked these for parallel and checked it for square, and it was really good. And I pulled both the lead screws out. These are easy to pull out. You pull these two Allen screws that freeze the bearing, and then this coupler, and this screws out real quick by hand, or if you're impatient, you can put a drill on there and get it out pretty quick. And then with both the lead screws out, this should move very freely. Somebody told me you need to be able to push it with your little finger, and that's how mine is. It's very free. So I figured that wasn't the problem. And I put it back together, and the problem persisted. It seemed like binding, but then I figured out when I pulled this lead screw, it ran fine off that motor. So I figured, well, it must be that motor, or maybe the cord, or maybe the driver. Then I swapped the cords that go to these two different drivers here, and I figured out that if I swap the cords, this side runs good and that side screws up. So I figured it must be the driver. I called Langmuir, and even though it's an old table, they're awesome. They picked the phone right up. They agreed with me. They're sending me a new driver, although a friend of mine had an extra TB 6600 that he gave me, and I put that in there. Cool thing about these tables, most of the parts are common. These are common drivers. They're inexpensive everywhere, and they're inexpensive from Langmuir too, and they're responsive. The motors are all common, and the bearings are common, so nothing scary about it. Anyhow, I put the new driver in, and it ran great for a minute, and then I put it all back together and ran it, and it jammed again. I'm like, what the heck? And start looking at it and playing with the cords, and finally I figured out that I figured out wiggling one of those, and then I saw actually a little puff of smoke come out of one of these. And I don't know if you can see it here. See that pin on the lower right? It's all burned up. This one's not as bad, but it's also damaged. And therefore, I assume, these are screwed up too. And you can see that's where that lower pin goes. It's bigger, and it's a little melted out. Probably that's where the smoke came out of. So I'm going to replace all this. I probably ought to just call Langmuir and they'd send me new ones, but I'm just going to build up these cords. But then I got into looking, well, what about the Z and the X-axis, and looking at those, they're a little compromised too, especially that lower right pin is a little bit burned. So I wonder if they're just running a little too much current through those, or maybe this is something that is an issue if your table doesn't have limit switches and the motor runs against a stop and does that too long. I don't know, but something to watch for. I'm going to be very careful about these connections now and keep them clean and probably install limit switches. It's fun. You get something like this and expect a learning curve, you know. And the other experiences I've been having, being on a budget, I bought the cheapest CNC torch I could find on sale from Amazon, and that was this Best Arc down here, 50 amp CNC. Fantastic little torch. I actually got clean cuts on 5/8 steel with it, cut in a straight line, and it was pretty square. But I messed up the tip on that. I burned up a tip so bad that I tried to take it out, and I broke it off in there. So I wound up drilling that, taking it all apart and drilling out the end on it. And there's a brass part in there that the tip screws into, and it's delicate. I drilled it out on the lathe over here and retapped it and got it so I could get, it's a 5mm thread. I retapped it, and amazingly it still works, but every now and then it'll misfire. And I'm just going to keep that torch around now for a backup. And I just bought this Solado. Haven't really tried it yet. It's all hooked up. It works. It's a 65 amp, so it'll probably be a little better. Seems like a little higher quality torch. The cable's better. It's a little bit more powerful. It was a little bit more expensive, but again, it was on sale. It was under $300. So we'll see how that works for me. Anyhow, that's my current adventure today, and hopefully we'll have this back up and running tomorrow.